Dan have said, you know, telling the story, getting it in the right order, trying to get it into 5 minutes is not easy for someone who's not noted for their brevity.
Well, thanks. And hi, Sebastian. Is that a virtual background you've got, or are you really in WeWork?
I wish I were in the office now. It's the exact office that we're in, so I have a degree of continuity when I am in this space. And,
oh, I see. That's very clever. You've taken a photo of like the real office and then put it at home. Okay.
We've only got a few joining us today, Anthony, so we're not going to be around for long.
Yeah. Okay.
I've got Seb, obviously, Ian. I'm waiting for a couple of others, but what we'll do, if you just want to introduce, I don't know, Sebastian, do you know Anthony from before?
I am familiar with Anthony. I don't think we've formally said hello, but Anthony's been heavily involved in Seed Sprint, which I'm currently doing.
Excellent.
And I've seen vlogs and blogs and various webinars and things. So I believe I've met you, but you haven't met me.
All right, cool. All right. Okay, so where should we start today then?
I think if we should start with, as I say, literally, I've only got, well, I'm waiting for certainly another one who's definitely paid. We've got about 20 registered, but I'm not. Oh, there's Dan. Hang on, let me get Dan in.
Okay.
On in a minute. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we? Do you want to sort of just introduce yourself, Anthony, and say a little bit about?
I think both parties know me, so
right.
I'm going to skip that. And
all right, then. Well,
we
let me
can
let
just hop
Dan
in. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Dan.
Hi there, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan. Hi.
I'm just saying, Dan, we've only got a few today, so what we'll do is we'll get underway and we can have a chat as we go along. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You got Sebastian. You got three great people here, if I say so myself. But, Ian, would you like to get us started?
Sure. You want to share my screen?
Oh, you can do that, can you?
Yep.
Right.
Must be getting good now, Ian.
Doing better. I'm ready when you guys are.
We're good to go.
Good to go. Right. Well, good afternoon to you all. My name's Ian Champness. I'm the founder of Go There Travel Limited. My background is travel technology. The holiday market, the outbound holiday market is huge, as you can see from this. But there are two very well publicized problems that we believe the Go There platform can solve. The first is for the consumer, because if you're a consumer and you put in a simple search like holiday in Australia, you get 1.6 billion results, and that's just far too much information for everyone to take on board. So the whole process of pre-planning and booking and researching a holiday is not only stressful, it's very time consuming. And especially so if you're one of those 19 million out of that 47 million who haven't got a clue where they want to go when they start looking and searching for their next holiday. So the second sector our platform can solve a problem for is the travel agency sector. Their perennial issue is finding clients at an affordable cost. Now, pre-internet, most of us book through a local travel agent. Post-internet, that started the momentum for the DIY booking. And it might come as a surprise that to learn that pre-COVID, back in 2019, there were still 9 million packages sold through the travel agency sector. And that represents some 40% of the holiday market. So travel agents still play a very important part. They're trusted. So we've got consumers, as I say, who are drowning in information, but they're starved of knowledge. And the way that you gain knowledge is to ask questions of experts that you trust. We've got 59,000 travel agents and home workers who are trusted experts in experience, and they're waiting for new leads. So what's our solution? Well, we try and bring the two together over a tech platform, but instead of doing it over the phone, I want to rediscover that old BT adage, it's good to talk, but not over the phone, over a one-to-one free Zoom consultation. So how are we going to do this? Well, our platform is a combination of holiday ideas that you can search for, experiences and holiday ideas, matched to experts for those destinations and their profiles. You can see and read their blogs, you can see where they've been, and you can view very short 1.5-minute videos on these destinations that they've recorded as to why you might want to go there. And if you like what you see and hear and read, you can set up a free consultation over a Zoom video call. So that becomes the key USP and the differentiator, matching destinations and one-to-one video over Zoom. I call that also the 3 C's: convenience, choice, and comparison. Now, why Zoom? Well, since lockdown, Zoom's become a ubiquitous app. It's reached a consumer usage and awareness that would ordinarily have taken 5 or more years to achieve. Important to say, we're not a booking site. It's a tech media platform, shouts agents' expertise, and to help find the right holiday for you. So you might say, why now? Well, during COVID and last year, the poor old travel agency sector has had nothing to sell and no one to sell it to. But there's a silver lining that's come out of COVID last year, when many of the consumers have started to realize that there's an awful lot of pitfalls in booking your own holiday, particularly when it comes to cancellations and trying to get your money back. And there's a recognition, as this recent survey by ABTA, the trade association, has confirmed, that there's a lot more people now prepared and want to look and use a travel agent when they next look to book their holiday. So post-COVID, what the market needs is an alternative channel to walk-in visitors, which will help find, but in a different way, new leads. So this schema basically illustrates the value chain, because the value chain is where we are creating an opportunity and the business case, and where the money is. Because travel agents earn 10% commission and can spend up to 1/3 of that commission on finding new clients. So we're creating the business case for travel agents to participate in this new platform. Revenue streams, we've got 3. The lead referral per Zoom consultation set up, the tech platform monthly recurring revenue streams to be on that platform, and an annual profile and listing. Important to restate, we're a media platform, we're not a booking site. So where are we now? Well, we built a demo website, we've written a very detailed functional spec, and that's been submitted to a number of tech developers that we've identified. And I'm beginning now to approach a number of trade contacts that I've known to see if they'd like to be found as shareholders. How much funds are we looking for? Well, we're looking for seed fast funding, as seed legals call it, the ASA alternative name. We're looking for pre-seed of 150K. This will be spent on building a commercially viable platform and to start my marketing to the travel agencies to get them involved. And obviously we'll be applying for SEIS and EIS tax relief as soon as we identify any potential investors. Who's in this team? Well, my background is travel technology. With my partners, we developed and supported 120 tour operator reservation systems, annual turnover of around 10 million, PBT of 1. But alongside this, what I want to do is create a foundation team, CMO and CTO, very important, and an advisory board of key influential trade people. I already have the backing, not financial, but the support of the previous chairman of ABTA and the current chairman, who love the idea of a platform that sells expertise, not product. This, in their view, is unique, a word you very rarely lose for VCs. So in summary, timing's right to build this platform. And the extraordinary thing is that this could fundamentally change the way consumers research and plan their holidays. So the ROI for early investors, based on a valuation of revenues, not EBITDA, could be quite significant by the end of year 3. So further information, detailed projections, anything else you need, please contact me. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ian. Oops, I've lost you.
All
Where do you want
right.
to start? Dan, Anthony, who wants to go?
Dan, you good if I go first this time? All right. Okay. So, Ian, thank you. Your presentation gets better each time. It was fast-paced, maybe a little bit too fast, maybe lost a little bit of drama as you went from one slide to the next, but really good. So, quick notes. I think your just first few things on the presentation and the slide deck. I think you can do with a nice glossy sort of intro slide that says the new way to find a place to go or something like that, with a picture of the Maldives and palm trees or something to get people in. You might also want to put a bit of effort into the graphics because it looks a little bit old on the thing. So small graphic investment with some designer you find on Behance or Dribble or something like that might bring the deck to life, because here you're selling a lot of the sizzle, not just the steak. So the next thing, there was quite a lot of Zoom mentioned throughout, and mentioning Zoom a lot comes with two problems. One, it sort of adds a risk because, is it entirely dependent on Zoom? Why Zoom so much? What if Zoom's out of business or something? And also, it's just putting Zoom's branding more almost than yours. So, unless it really can only work on Zoom, because there are many other platforms, you might want to downplay that slightly. The next thing, just talking about Zoom, is there was some eye-popping number on the last screen showing 645K paid to Zoom for referrals, and then another 800K in Zoom, something or other. That was a lot. So the Zoom was really, really dominant, and it seemed to be a major part of the cost. If you go to your last slide with the costs, no, further along. Further, that one right there. So here you've got 800K in video Zoom monthly subscription, and then you've got Zoom referral charges. So there's a lot of Zoom money there. So you definitely want to look at that. I don't know if Zoom should be anywhere near that amount, but that's, I wouldn't be looking to pay more than 50K a year in, those sort of charges. So that's a discussion to be had with your friendly Zoom rep on that. So which then takes me to the sort of small feedback. I think two other items. Number one, you're up to functional spec written in terms of your progress. And the question is that enough? Are investors going to invest at the point you've got a functional spec, or are they expecting that you'd have built something more than that? And of course, you can find that out as you talk to investors. Maybe they'll go, great, but actually maybe investors will say, actually, you should spend a bit of your money on an MVP. Our Seed Legals data shows founders put a median of £26,000 of their own money into it to build a prototype or something, up to that point. So it gets over the believability gap, which then takes me to the last point I wanted to raise, which is not anything particular to you, but for every pitch, the key thing in investors' minds is this going to work? There's a founder with an idea. Sounds good. The mind the gap moment is, is anyone going to want it? And it's going to work. And the closer you come to, bridging that gap, the more investable you are. So obviously you're highly investable. If you've got users and monthly revenue, then you've crossed the Rubicon, and investors are going to invest, and that's typically Series A. But if you don't have revenue, then do you have users? And if you don't have users, have you got test users? And if you don't have test users, have you got people evaluating the prototype? And if you haven't got people evaluating the prototype, okay, great, you've got a spec written. But for me, I think that as an investor, I would like to see more proof points before I would come in here. So even if you've just got a functional spec written, where are the images? Where are the mock-ups? What user testing have you done that says, I've interviewed 27 people and they loved the idea and they said they would pay for it. So all of which is to convince me, and it's nothing to do just with with this presentation, but on anyone watching, that you want your investors to see that they're onto a winner rather than just a hypothesis. So you want to try and show as much, even before you've built it, of course, to cross that chasm. And that's it for me. And Dan, over to you.
Could I just answer those points as
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Take on board about the graphics, but it won't have escaped your notice that I'm not 25 anymore. So in terms of that, we can look at that. Selling the sizzle is what we used to do a lot of. In terms of Zoom, very curious because I put that slide in with the revenues. Those are revenues, Anthony. They're not overheads to pay Zoom. The money that I've negotiated with Zoom is going to be around 15 or 20 quid per month to actually have access to the API and to do it. So those were purely what we would charge. And I'm looking at £25 as a starting point to be on the Zoom platform. So those are revenues, ARR coming in, literally, to have you as an agent that we've vetted and we agree you know all about the Maldives. And that's what you will be paying us for a recurring revenue stream. You will then, the system will crystallize a Zoom lead charge only when that's initiated, when a consumer wants to set up through an API in Calendly or whatever it is that they're using and actually create a one-to-one consultation.
Got it. So someone said there was an R there, which indicates I wasn't the only one who might have got that wrong.
No, I hear that, but the Zoom cost is quite a, I've seen infinitesimal
you might want to remove the Zoom wording from that.
I will.
Okay.
I'll remove it. The second point is the risk. Well, Zoom is ubiquitous, and I go back to technologies that included things like Videotex and Prestel. And the reason that they didn't work for the public is that the acceptance and the availability of that kit wasn't simply there. What Zoom has done in 9 months of lockdown is established that older people are very comfortable with it, whereas they weren't before. And it's a facilitator in terms of a video call rather than web chat. I looked originally at this idea, web chat, but what people like about this, and the conversion rate, didn't have enough time to put it in the slides to justify those costs. Average cost of Australia package about 10,000. Agents are earning 1,000 on that. If they would ordinarily spend £300 on marketing costs, if we convert 1 in 5, which is what the industry works on for a phone call.
We won't go into the numbers, because otherwise we'll be out of time. But
the functional spec, we've actually built. I've spent quite a lot of money in having the design and the UX, and I've built quite a comprehensive demo platform. It's only got a couple of 100 places in it at the moment, but everyone I've shown it to thinks this is something that will have some traction. So I've got the demo site. The really tricky bit is getting the algorithms right for who comes up first, how many times in a month they would come up, all that stuff, and then employing some form of AI ML to make sure that we're harnessing the really key critical success factor here is what does it cost for me to get a visitor to the site, and what's the conversion rate then to actually initiate the call. And that is where AM and MI, because 95% of all visits to a website go away.
You don't need to convince me. I'm not the investor. The key feedback is that sounds fantastic. If you can bring that out further in the deck so that people see you've done all of that, that would be even better.
Right. Dan, do you have any comments at the moment, or do you want to move on for now?
Your choice, Neil. I mean, I've got comments, plenty of comments if we can go ahead with. Probably best to do them now in order, or do you want to?
No, let's come back to you on that one afterwards. Let's get Sebastian on. Sebastian, are you around? Because we can have a general chat afterwards for the
Yeah.
I am indeed.
Let me just give one quick piece of feedback to Ian whilst it's on my mind, because it's not. You need to take feedback on the chin.
Right.
You're getting a bit defensive. Okay. Doesn't mean we don't like it. because Anthony's feedback was on the money in my view there.
Okay, and I point taken. That's why these sessions are terrific.
So, and take it down, make your changes. That's it. Because if we don't get it, we don't get it. It may, you know, if we, you know, if there's things that are not right, or in our eyes, like the numbers, for instance, even if, you know, Anthony was on the wrong end of the stick, it's because you're not being clear enough. And actually, 90% of this is all about being clear.
Agreed. Thank you.
Right. Can we stop sharing your screen, Ian, for now, please?
Yeah, of course.
All this tech stuff. Lovely. Thanks. Right. Sebastian, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it away.
Awesome. Allow me to share my screen.
Sure.
I've been having problems with full screen. So is that full screen for everyone?
Yep, that looks good to me.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I am.
Sorry, we're seeing your first screen and your next screen rather than just one screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're sharing this the navigator mode.
Cool. Let's move on PDF instead.
Which is the first point, which is of course getting the screen share to work. So welcome to the new world of Zoom presentations.
Yeah, but it's all part of the practice here, getting used to Zoom. Some people might not be using Zoom, as you said. So, you know, as I say, off you go.
Let's go with PDF instead. And if we can we see that full screen?
Yeah, that's full screen. Yes.
Okay, excellent, cool. So, as I said, I'm CEO and founder. I'm CEO and co-founder of Move. And yeah, I'm going to talk to you about our PropTech business. So, the UK collectively spends a crazy high £84.7 billion per year, yet renting today is unnecessarily fragmented. Why is that? So as a tenant, I might scour Rightmove and Zoopla for the perfect property. I'll then pick up the phone and manually reach out to a landlord or letting agent. If I'm lucky, I might be able to negotiate on that price. But then after doing that, I then have to go through the rigmarole of picking my energy supplier, my electricity supplier, my internet supplier. And then once I've actually moved into the property, a bit like it's 2008, but here we are in 2021, I'll send an email to my landlord or I'll pick up the phone if there are any repairs that need doing. It's a bit exhausting just thinking about it, let alone actually doing it. Additionally, tenants might think they found the perfect pad, but actually, I think as we all know, for anyone that's rented, they can be full of unwelcome surprises. Landlords, on the other hand, feel like they're not getting value for money from letting agents and they're ditching them in droves. This is where we come in, introducing Move. Move is essentially a TripAdvisor, but for the private rental market. So what does Move do? Well, it lets renters review their properties and their agents, and landlords to review their tenants and their agents. What we do to ensure this isn't a he said, she said situation is we combine this with data points to give an accurate reflection of a household. So we'll look at things like maintenance timeliness, overall responsiveness of a tenant and a landlord in communications with each other, and how easily things such as deposit disputes and other issues are resolved. What we also do is we bring all of the rental functions under one roof. So bills for all tenants are sorted with Move. They pay us directly and we pay the utility company, as opposed to one lead tenant in a shared house chasing the other tenants for their bills money. But we also bring home all of those other rental functions, viewing inquiries, rent negotiations, and maintenance. It's all within Move. Now, landlords, they can fully cut the cord of using an agent. If they choose to stick with an agent, they can also fully vet them on our platform. Here's a screenshot of the product that we've built so far. And a quick quote that just really kind of highlights and summarizes from a landlord and ex-letting agent how vital and important this platform is to them. In terms of use cases, our offering is really extensive compared to the competition. Obviously, Rightmove and Zoopla have a really extensive choice and comprehensive amount of properties, but what we're aiming for is far more than that, something far more extensive and comprehensive. As I said earlier, the UK collectively spends 84.7 billion on rent, but we spend an equally high number on bills. Now, the value of those marketplaces is about £312 million, and for those bill split services, around £50 million per year. That is growing rapidly, and at the moment there are no key players in that market. They're all vying for that top space, that first place rather. If we look into marketplaces on a whole across the globe, not just in the UK, student renters alone for marketplaces are worth $180 billion. Now, it's pretty difficult to calculate that for the entire globe, the rental value of that, but it's really insanely high. So what about our go-to-market and our marketing? So far we've had some really early successes. We're in partnership discussions with the UK's largest landlord organisation about bringing our software to their customers and their members. We've had some articles published in The Tab, which is a student publication, as well as Landlord Zone, amongst others. We launched in Cardiff 2 weeks ago as a soft launch, preparing for that September launch of when students will move into accommodation. So far, we've reviewed 9.2% of houses in Cardiff alone in those 2 weeks. We've gained 1,500 followers on social media, and some of our posts have seen 600 plus engagements. Key to our strategy for going forward will be to finalise more of those partnerships and bring on some strategic partnerships and really get the marketing machine going to get people excited about and using Move. In terms of financials, we're forecasting 23.9 million over the forecast period, and a year 5 exit with a 15.7 times return on investment. In terms of our pre-seed round, we're raising 350,000 pre-seed with our SEIS and EIS advanced assurance currently pending. I'm Seb Walker. I'm a university startup advisor and landlord myself, and I'm joined by a fantastic team. My co-founder, who I attended university with, a fantastic CTO who previously built and exited a PropTech business and is a lecturer at Wales's National Software Academy, and our fantastic Chief Legal Officer, Rory, the same as well. And really looking forward to and invite any questions. Thank you.
Sebastian, thanks very much.
Dan, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anthony. Okay, first of all, yeah, the IT problems need sorting out. But there's something, I don't know whether it was just me, but there's something that wasn't right with your microphone as well. It was a bit muffled, and at one point at the end of the presentation, it was very clear, it went very loud, and then it was muffled again. I don't know whether it's your laptop or you've got a physical mic on there or something, but you need to check your mic or something. So, because something wasn't right there, and a bit of a distraction. On your opening slide, you got the name Move, brilliant, in really small, not brilliant text. And that's kind of the thing that more than anything else, people want to remember. If all they remember is renting today, then, then that's probably, probably not as good at the end of the day. I'd stick with pounds or dollars when you're doing your presentation at the end of the day. Be consistent. And if you're going to ask for pounds, then talk about the market in pounds, I would do. So, I mean, there is part of me that worries about your proposition is one of the whole, getting a student house is learning to play house at the end of the day. But maybe that's, just me. I mean, but I do appreciate the world's changed, and the idea that I rented my first house as a student for less than £40 a month or something. So yeah. But at least you've identified the organizations that exist in terms of payment collection, and also organizations trying to find pay utilities. So you really got to focus on, as much as anything else with your team, on the marketing here and how you're going to build a brand that's different. Am I right in that you actually go and assess each individual property?
No, so we don't assess the property ourselves. We get users to assess the property. And then what we do is we combine that with data that we receive. So using the platform, let's say a tenant has a broken boiler, they would log on to Move, log that that's an issue, and then the landlord or the property manager on the other side would then say, right, I've sent someone out to conduct that repair. Move validates that that's been done, and then scores it using an algorithm.
So you might want to be a little bit clearer about that in terms of, because otherwise it comes across as a very people intensive proposition which investors won't like, because it will slow the whole thing down and it'll be a massive cost. And the fact you've been smart enough to kind of decentralize all that, I think, is probably something you might want to make a little bit clearer. 9.2% seems like a lot as well, so it's a good start, really. So I'd make more of that at the end of the day. So your team slide looks good, by the way. In terms of, not necessarily the personalities, it's clear you've got all the right people in there, in my view. Maybe you just want to think a little bit more about marketing as well. And I think, my concern about this is it's not unique, and you really need to focus on the differentiation at the end of the day. So, and you might want to paint a picture of where you want to be next year and the year after and stuff like that to show some sort of idea of scale. So, yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. That's really, really useful.
Other than that, great work.
All right, so thanks. So you can stop screen sharing, by the way. My feedback, the microphone, it was really difficult to hear you. And when you have to work hard to do things, then you start tuning out. So, get a headset. Next, very nice branding, the cows, the moos, very cute. I was busy Googling to see if there are going to be trademark issues with things that are similar. None jumped to mind. You've got two different URLs at the end, move.to and move.london. I think you should always have one, not two, otherwise people think you're still deciding. Next is, you started off by talking about renting in general, but then at some point it started looking more like students. And then if you look at your website, it's all about students. So I feel slightly I was being misled a bit, that it's like, where's the student come in? So I think you should be clear. If you're talking about students, it's really about students. And if you're talking about the overall market, it's the overall market. You may also find that you're starting with students. This is a common thing in all companies. You're starting with a small problem space, and then your much bigger addressable market comes later. You want to signpost that so the investor doesn't get to the wrong conclusion. They don't want to, for example, see a giant market, but then actually your real addressable market is smaller, and you want to signpost, we start with this and we do that, or actually it's just the student market because that's big. Then, as Dan said, it's not uncommon that there are startups focused on student accommodation and so on. So, finding some unique angle to it, which is, I think you got people's minds going from the early slide that, there it looked like, a pristine penthouse, and the reality was something different. How do you ensure that that's what you see is what you get, and so on? And then I think one more item from me, which is whenever I see a competitive matrix of you and your competitors, and your competitors are companies with billion-pound valuations and have been spending millions a year on development, the question is how you can have more ticks than they've got. And that's a problem. So it's good to be a full-featured, or it might be good to be a full-featured platform, or it might be good to not be a full-featured platform and differentiate in other ways. But if you're showing competitors, and you as a scrappy new startup, and I say that in the nicest way, are covering features that they're not doing, then the question for the investor is, why are they not doing that? And there are two possibilities. Either they've decided they're not important features, and therefore they haven't done it, or they're actually hard to do and they plan to get to it, and they're a feature away from doing, your extra tick. So, it's actually showing that you're doing more ticks than major competitors sometimes leaves people not to think that you're covering the bases that they haven't, but wondering why you're able to do that on a way smaller budget and they've chosen not to. So be a bit careful in thinking about why they haven't done those other features, how much technical effort is needed, and whether you want to compete at least, for your customer proposition. Super cute, cows, moves, fine place, I'm a student, it may be spot on, The website looks good as well. But for the competitive matrix, it may lead to the opposite conclusion than you wanted to do by showing that. So that was my feedback, but otherwise, really nice. And by the way, you also going just a bit too fast. No sooner was I focused on a slide going, I'm reading it, it moved on to the next one. So pause, you know, you might want to remove 20% of slides so that you can have the person focused, read the slide, because I was going, yeah, it looks, oh, it's moved. That was, it's gone. So yes, all right, cool.
Every time I saw something interesting,
it moved.
I moved on.
That's right, yeah.
Just on the slide one there, Seb, as well. Your TripAdvisor one, I'd move that towards the top. Yeah, like your key line, what you're going, who you are, what you're doing type concept. I think it
just one afterthought. Something I've noted in my note. You might want to focus a little bit more, a little mention on go to market. I know you mentioned how you've advertised so far in an Asian magazine, this tab, which by the way is fine if they're your target market, something you need to think about, you know. Which is the immediate thing I'm thinking, oh, this is the market, really small compared to the whole market again. So there are, you might want to kind of position where you're, you know, who the market, who your target customers is, and how are you generally going to reach them once you've got a bit of catch as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Right, we'll move on for now. Sean, are you there? Sean Elliott. He was. Where's he gone? I seem to have lost him.
Are we that excited?
No, he's not here. Okay, plan B. Dan, did you want to make a couple of comments on Ian's presentation we cut off earlier?
Yeah. No. Yes. Confident start, Ian, by the way. Really confident. You've opened up really clearly saying you are a platform. So which I liked, kind of frame the situation such that would so we knew where you were. And what you talked about in terms of, and then you went to talk about the problem. To me, you've made you spent a lot more time talking about the problem and used it almost as a sales technique as well. You've really flagged up lots of problems here, and it was really crisp. And I really liked, not crisp necessarily, really clear and insightful. You showed the fact that you're a bit of a travel veteran in terms in the industry as well. I like what you're doing. It's quite good. The whole comment about Zoom, I won't mention anymore, but you know, you might just incidentally Zoom is, I won't say it's losing its way, but there's now a lot more platforms out there, and some of them are a lot easier than Zoom. Just, you know, you don't even need to download anything at the end of the day with the likes of Hopin and everything else that's going on at the moment. So, you know, and then probably might be able to cut a better deal. So something to think about. Your deck's clearer. It's a lot nicer now. It's colorful. Careful your text is not too small. There's still quite a lot of it as well. I like the fact you weren't reading from your slides, and I like the fact that what you were saying was augmenting what you were talking about. So I don't know if it was intentional, but it certainly looked like you'd scripted it and prepared it. It didn't look over scripted, actually. It came very natural. The financials just don't work for me, though, in terms of, I mean, I don't think you need to go into everything on how you reach your revenues and the percentage cut and everything else. It's just too much detail at this stage. The fact you've got it is good. You might want to mention somewhere else the market share, just overall the market size. That's kind of good. But I would say there's a general format that I tend to see with finances, where you would mention the revenue, the gross profit, the operating cost, and the EBIT. And really, that's probably all you need. I like to see 5-year projections, because as much it signals where the business is going. Not necessarily because I believe that's where it's going to be in 5 years. Who knows what's going to happen in 5 years, I always say. If you're going to come back, which I'm sure Neil would welcome, and I'd like to see you, I'd suggest you do your presentation stood up, just to, as you're getting closer to what it's going to be like in front of an investor. I like to do all my sales presentations stood up. You project your voice. You think a bit different. I know that sounds strange, but pitch coach people will tell you, you just think a little bit different when you stood up. And your airwaves are also slightly clearer and different as well. So just think about that. Don't necessarily need to see you in a suit and tie in an office kind of thing, but you might want to think about your lighting as well, just because we want to see your pretty face as well. So yeah, other than that, yeah, excellent. The one weakness I do worry about, which is your team, in terms of this, at the moment, there really is just you and 2 advisors. And some, investors actually rarely are bothered about advisors unless you've got, sort of Bill Gates on there or something. So, I mean, it's not doing any harm that you're advisors, but really think about, even if they're not people you got on now, people you might bring on. So, and if you do have a prototype demo or something else, at the very least mention it, show a screen share of it. Don't necessarily need to see a whole demonstration of it, but just a slide, just showing this is what it looks like, shows that you're a little bit further along than hey, this is a nice idea I've got.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much. We seem to have lost Sean, so that's it for now, folks. Does anybody want to ask any questions or got any comments they would like to make whilst we're here? If not, okay.
Right.
Tomorrow we're back again. We're doing a capital raising workshop with Anthony, Dan, myself, and also Dan from Foresters, who's going to talk about the importance of IP. And I know that was mentioned a bit earlier on something, or trademarks, with Anthony looking something up. If you've not registered and you'd like to attend, if you just go to our website, exponential-events.com, there's a link right at the top of the page and the home page to our Eventbrite tickets. And if you put yourself down, if you've not already registered as a VIP guest of mine, then it's free. So we look forward to seeing you. I can't stress how great these the workshops are, the capital raising ones. They are probably Anthony will cover everything that you possibly, not everything, but certainly the main points of what you need to do to raise capital. Or we'll talk about how to meet angels, what you need to do, how to network once you're ready to raise. So it's a very interesting event and Dan will talk about pitching and such like as well. So we look forward to seeing you. Have a good day. Anthony, as always, thank you very much. Dan, thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ian, good to see you. Darren, sorry, yeah, please.
Yeah, just sorry, Neil. Just one quick question. I've been following you guys for best part of 2 or 3 months now, watching with interest, and I think what you do is fantastic. So, all credit to you. How do I get involved in terms of pitching?
Sure. Have you come to the workshop before? Not this one, but the capital raising one.
I have previously, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, what I'd say is probably best to come on one of these events before you come to an actual pitch event. We're still holding physical until the world works out, or London works out what it's actually doing, because it seems to be changing its mind every minute.
Being virtual, yeah.
Normally, Darren, normally I'll say, in the past, all those years ago, we tend to hold our physical pitch events at the Brand Exchange in London, which is just around the corner from the Bank of England. We'd take over the club for the evening, downstairs bar drinks, upstairs theatre layout, pitching and such like. At the moment, back to where we are, we're doing physical pitch events. I've got one coming up on the 27th, i.e. next week. So if you want some more
that downstairs bar gets quite packed. There is no social distancing there.
No.
So in a way that would now be, oh my God, look at the number of people that can fit in this room. It's awesome, but I'm not sure. So
I think that there's still a lot of people who are going to be very wary of that, and us going forward will be certainly operating a hybrid system whereby we'll still be doing physical pitch events, but we'll also be doing the virtual ones as well. The advantage of virtual, of course, and coming back to what Ian was talking about, Zoom and such like, we can get potential investors from all around the world, subject to certain time zones and such like. So that's one of the great advantages of the world now with Zoom. People tend to look at things differently, don't have to physically be face to face with somebody. They'll listen to them, have meetings with them, talk to them over Zoom and get the information that they want.
And if I could just inquire in terms of experience from you guys, is there a typical, and it's quite open-ended, but is there a typical number of angel investors that a startup would have? Based on, say, a requirement of 250K with a pre-money valuation of 1.5 million.
Anthony's probably your best man there.
Right. So no, I mean, you might find a single investor that will come in. You might, the two extremes are, one is sort of early stage VC that goes, great, I'll invest and take the whole round. The other extreme is a crowdfunding round where you've got 100 investors for, £250 each, or, whatever it might, or 2.5 grand each. I think most companies would probably settle somewhere in between, which is a dozen investors, at 20K, on average. So that would be a good way to fill out a, 200K round. You may also find that you end up doing a rolling close round. So you'd like to raise 250K, you actually end up finding quite quickly the 150K, for example. And then instead of having to decide, I do a small round or I top up later, then you so either do a small round or wait and keep looking. You can do a small round now and then top up as you find more. So what I call agile fundraising. And that means you can get in the money that you need today, because you don't literally need 250K today, because you're not going to spend it today. You do need probably 50K today to start paying people and agencies or developers or something. You don't want to be risk trading insolvent and living hand to mouth as you have 3 weeks cash in the bank. So you want to raise enough to get things going. But if you can top up as you go along, and as word gets out and people read the news reports about your product and then they start calling you, if you can make it easy to take the money afterwards, then that's great. So that might be the go. So the short answer is, if you were to find a dozen angel investors, that might be about half of the course for that type of round.
You only need one, Darren, at the end of the day. But
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
One of the things. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say so you only need, as your company grows and you're doing more, you do several, you go into A round and a B round and everything else. Your focus really becomes about managing your investors in terms of one of your big focuses. So therefore, if you've got loads of investors, it becomes more of a headache. If you're a company looking to buy, if you're, let's say, a VC looking to buy out a startup, for instance, one of the things they're interested in more than anything else is how many investors are in it, how many they've got to deal with. So don't think, that's one of the big downsides with crowdfunding, is if you go in and say, oh, great, I got 100 investors. It's administrative, it becomes more of an administrative nightmare at the end of the day. So if it helps you, typical invest angels will be looking to fund about 20, fund about 25K, I would say. Some fund a bit less. So, but you can't. Well, all I say is focus the investor, focus who you're going to go to. And if you ask, because whoever you go to, they tend to say, oh, I'm interested, even if at the end of the day they're not. So pick the likelihood that you're going to get, or the ones that are most likely that to be interested.
Yeah. What you'll also find, Darren, is that especially through events and meeting people, not just us, but other, opportunities, networking events and such like, is that once you've got one angel investor, or we'll call it an investor, maybe, angel investor, call it what you want, who's keen on what you're doing, he's going to talk to his network and such like, and his mates, and you'll find that what will happen a lot of the time is that they'll come in as well. Yeah. It'll be a little investment circle, for want of a better word. It's like back in the day when I used to live in Hong Kong back in the early 90s, we used to go around and see the women's clubs because, you know, all the men were out at work and everything else. And this is no disrespect to any women. Obviously, women were working, but it was a while ago. And the women's would have, you know, an investment amount. We'd go to see them talk about different investment options and such like, and they'd make decisions and bang, you know, you've got deals in one go.
Yeah, it's really valuable advice, and I thank you very much once again. Can I just ask then, Neil, when's your next practice pitch session?
Next practice pitch is going to be, what are we doing now? It's going to be about middle. It's going to be a Tuesday again on, I haven't set it up yet, but I will do later. Normally the middle of the month. I think it's normally the second Tuesday we run. And then the last Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what's going on. The last one being the England game against Germany, which was, to say the least, was a bit of a disaster. But it's normally the last Tuesday or Wednesday of the month.
Okay, brilliant.
Neil, could I just ask Anthony a very quick question? Anthony, can you just explain again and summarize the difference between what you call seed fast or advanced subscription agreements and agile? I'm not quite sure. Do those work in tandem or not in terms of rolling funding?
Sure. So agile it's just my name for a sort of the blanket term to say, instead of having to round up all your investors to leave on the bus together at the same time, they can come in dribs and drabs, and some of them take an Uber beforehand and some of them take an Uber beforehand after. So normally in the old days, you would get everyone lined up and do a funding round, and it would take months to do the deal terms, and you'd have a lead investor and they'd want to get their lawyers, and it was a slow process. But what you really want is you really want a bit of money today to pay for some of your developers to get to the next level of traction. So what you can do is you can do broadly two things. So let's say you wanted 250K hypothetically. Scenario one is actually you've got 150K lined up, in which case you go, great, I'm going to do a funding round, but with a rolling close. So the round, I've got enough to fill out most of a round. So I'm going to raise 150K, but in my funding round, I'll say I can top up another 100K anytime between now and Christmas, for example. And we call that topping up with instant investment. But the other possibility is that you have, you know, you say, hey, Anthony, I've got 20K. This investor wants to give me 20K and I actually really need the 20K now. Well, that's not really enough to do a funding round. And also the valuation today is going to be different to the valuation potential when you did your round, or you don't know what the valuation is because you've just got one person today wanting to give you some money, but later on you're going to have 10 people that you're going to need to agree a common valuation with, and it will be a different number. So how do you sort that problem? And the solution to that one is a seed fast, which is our buzzword or trade name for an advanced subscription agreement, which says, I give you money now, we don't decide the valuation yet, but when it does convert in your next round, you'll give me a 10 or 20% discount compared to what the investors in the round will get to incentivize me for coming in early. So the seed fast is a great way of people coming along in dribs and drabs before the round to get their money in before you've even had to decide the valuation. And then you can start using that money to get more traction, to, of course, to increase the valuation.
So you could have more than one seed investor under a seed fast.
There's one investor per seed fast, but you can do as many of them as you like. And I think the high point of that was a dating app called Thursday that got quite a lot of traction. In fact, it's a great example of what to do to get investment. It might not be quite you, Ian, but the investors, two quite flamboyant founders with their dating app, stood actually literally on the wall of the banks of the Thames, the big cardboard sign saying raising 1.2 million by Friday or bust, and then stood in Trafalgar Square. You seed legals, they must have raised, well, they actually end up raising about £2 million, about half of it from probably 50 seed fasts from 50 different investors, and £1 million separately from a fund, also with the seed fast. And I think literally as people came to them in Trafalgar Square or something on their phone, they made another seed fast for them. And but they created this coordinated campaign. The seed fasts now all need to convert within 6 months for SEIS compatibility. So they're going to have to do a refunding round within 6 months. But that was sort of the high point, both in creating a really nice fear of missing out campaign, and perhaps also raising sort of, in a sense, the wrong set of things, which is normally you'd raise a small amount of seed fast to convert in your round. Here it seemed to me that they've raised everything that they needed, and they don't need a funding round unless they manage to spend £2 million in 6 months. Then so then they'll all convert at what's called the long stop valuation, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's generally, generally your goal with the seed fast is to raise bridge finance ahead of the round. And the combination of raising before and then topping up, collectively, I just call that agile fundraising, because you're raising opportunistically, whether standing in Trafalgar Square or the banks of the Thames, or from the comfort of your own home.
Thank you.
That's great.
Cool.
Anybody else want to make any comments, or we're going to close for today, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, see you tomorrow then.
Anthony, once again, thanks very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Dan, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for everybody else pitching. And as I say, what we'll do, I'll send out, we've recorded this, so I'll put it onto our YouTube account, and I'll send you a link so you can have a look. And I'll also send you out the relevant information if you don't have it for Anthony and Dan and myself.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you, Neil.
You're welcome. Thanks very much indeed, folks. Have a good day. Enjoy the sunshine wherever you might be.
Thank you.